All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over the PowerPoint presentations for Murox ASP.NET 4.6 with C# 2015 6th edition. We are up to Chapter 21 of 25, which is starts on page 755 and is entitled How to Use Email, Custom Error Messages, Custom Error Pages, and Back Button Control. Those are the three topics of this chapter. All right, we're not going to do any work as far as sending emails, but this shows how it can be done. Now, displaying custom error pages can be nice because you have your choice of whether you want your error page to kind of look like the rest of your site or to look totally different. Finally, prevent back button or refresh button problems from occurring in your applications. And I believe what they talk about in here is if you, for example, are putting things in and taking things out of a shopping cart and you kind of do it in a weird way. So we'll look at those in a minute. Those are our applied objectives. As far as our knowledge objectives, describe the use of the mail message, message address, or mail address, SMTP, client, attachment, and alternate view objects as they relate to sending email messages from an application. Describe the use of third-party SMTP server like Papercut for testing webmail pages or web pages that send email. Describe 3 ways to catch exceptions thrown by ASP.NET applications. Describe the use of the web.config for handling specific types of HTTP errors. Describe what is known as the back button problem, and describe 3 ways of handling the back button problem. So, in your book here on page 757, you see this email, which shows how, this figure that shows how email works. And the author says you're probably familiar with an email client like Microsoft Outlook or Outlook Express, which is software that communicates with a mail server that actually sends and retrieves your mail message. Most likely, your mail server software is provided by your ISP. And this diagram, this is figure 21-1 on page 757. It shows how this works. The 2 protocols typically used to send email messages are SMTP, which is the simple mail transfer protocol, which is used to send a message from one mail server to another, and POP, which is Post Office Protocol, which is used by mail clients to retrieve messages from mail servers. When you send an email message, the message is first sent from the client software on your computer to the mail server using SMTP. Then the mail server uses SMTP to send the mail to the recipient's mail server. Finally, the recipient mail client uses the POP protocol to retrieve the mail from the recipient's mail server. So in some ways, it's all kind of magical. A third protocol that you might hear about or may be used is referred to as MIME, which is an acronym standing for Multi-Purpose Internet Mail Extension. It's not used to transfer email messages, rather it defines the type of content that an email message may end up containing. Now, they mention on 757 3 common reasons for sending email from an app. One is to confirm receipt of an order. So you're working with some kind of a online store and you want to let them know that indeed the order has been received. 2, to remind a registered user of a forgotten password. 3, to notify the support personnel of a problem. Now, out of the box, and this is an important point, and it's mentioned on the top of page 758, out of the box, an ASP.NET app won't be able to send email. And it doesn't matter whether you're using IIS or the full version of IIS, IIS Express, or the full-blown version to host applications. As a result, before you can test an ASP.NET app that sends email messages, you must install your own SMTP server. In previous versions of Windows, you could use the SMTP server built into IIS. Now, IIS, though, does not include an SMTP server, so you need to get a separate one. Many can be downloaded for free. In this chapter, they talk about PaperCut that's hosted on the Codeplex website. Codeplex has a lot of Microsoft stuff. This SMTP server, as mentioned on page 758, is designed for development environments. So they show you the steps for installing and working with PaperCut on the bottom of page 759. I'm not going to go through any of these. There's the interface for PaperCut. Okay? All right. Figure 21.3 that's on pages 760 and 761 shows the constructors and the properties of the mail message class that are used to create email messages. It also shows the constructors of the mail address class, which is used to create the addresses that are stored in the from, the to, the CC, and the BCC of a mail message. These are all part of the system.net namespace package. All right, what you see here first are, again, the constructors of the mail message class. In the first constructor, it's an empty mail message. The second one creates a mail message with to and from addresses specified as strings or mail message objects. And the third one creates a mail message with a to, a from, a subject, and a body, all specified as strings. The properties should be pretty self-evident. From, who's the sender, to, who's the recipient, CC for, I guess originally it stood for carbon copy, but it's who you're making copies to, BCC for blind carbon copy, subject for the subject line, body for the body of the message, is body HTML, which is a Boolean which indicates if the body of the message contains HTML, and note that the default is false. Attachment, which is a collection of one or more attachment objects, and alternate views, which is a collection of alternate view objects for multi-part emails. The constructors of the mail message, or mail address class, I should say, we've got the first one, which creates an email address with a specified address string, and the second one, which creates an email address with the specified address and display strings. So there's a couple examples after this. The first one illustrates how to use these classes to create an email message that includes a carbon copy or a CC. The second example, that's on the bottom of the page, shows how to create the same email as the first example without setting the display name for the sender. Okay. As far as sending an email message, after you create the message, you send it using the SMTP Simple Mail Transfer Protocol client class as shown here. All right, we've got the constructors and the methods. The first constructor is a blank constructor or a parameterless constructor, which creates a client using the settings in web.config. The second one has name passed into it, so it creates a client that can send an email to a specified SMT server. And the third one includes both the name of that server and the port. As far as the methods, there's the send message, which sends the specified mail message object, and the send with the from, to, subject, and body, which sends the message along with or using the specified from, to, subject, and body strings. Now there's a couple examples in here. So to set up the SMTP configuration string, you code something that looks like this in web.config. So again, the idea is you're doing this once, specifying where it's coming from and the associated port, so that the system can basically grab it out of that file and you don't have to do it anymore. So this example right here shows how to send an email message using the settings in web.config right there. It also illustrates how to send a message that's been stored in a mail message object. This third example that's right here shows how you can send a mail message without creating a mail message object. Next, starting on page 764, they talk about attachments. And as mentioned there, an attachment file is a file that's sent along with an email message. The most common types are text files, PDFs, sound files, video files, etc. So, what they start showing here is how to create an attachment basically and send it as an email message. Remember that since SMTP is designed to send text messages and not binary files, which attachments are, any email attachment for a binary file must be converted to a text format before it can be sent. In ASP, the good news is ASP.NET handles this type of conversion automatically for you. As far as how to create an email message on 766 and 767, by default, email messages consist of plain text with no formatting. However, it is possible for you to create a formatted message by using HTML. However, it is considered best practice to include a plain text message as well as an HTML message, and you do this by creating a multi-part email message, and they show you this graphically here in figure 21.6 on page 767. The method first creates a mail message object and adds a from address, a to address, and a subject. Then it calls get confirmation method twice, once for the plain text message and once for the HTML that's part of the body of the message. The alternate view class, of the system.nail, The alternate view class of the system.net.mail namespace lets you include both the text and the HTML formats in an email. Now this is considered to be best practice. There is an example. All right. How to create an HTML message with an embedded image. That's 768 and 769. So, sometimes you want your HTML to include images, known as embedded images. They're different than images attached to an email because they appear in the HTML for the message. There's an example, and we see here the code that does this. So to embed an image as part of an HTML email, as opposed to including it in the attachment, you need to use the linked resource class of the system.net.mail namespace to hold the image, and then you need to refer to the image in your HTML code. Now remember, this chapter is broken down into 3 sections. We just have now finished the section on how to work with emails or emailing in an ASP.NET application. What starts next on page 770, and it goes for 2, 4, 6, 8, the next 8 pages, is how to use custom error handling. So that will be part 2 or video 2 of this chapter.